Hello everyone, I'm Jusuf. Welcome to this video. Today we are talking about sustainable fashion. I originally just wanted to share my online wish list because I found myself just writing down so many things on my wish list, and I thought it would be beneficial for you to share those and give you some brand recommendations. But then I realized, you know what? The actual question I want to answer is, how do we make our consumer behavior more sustainable? So I decided to do this video where we're going to be talking about my mindset towards sustainable fashion, where to start. And since I asked you on Instagram what specifically you wanted to know on this topic, one thing I've read a lot was how to shop sustainably and budget friendly. I'm going to answer that question in this video. And then in part 2, you're going to hear my wish list. So I have Bourbon here in my lap. I think he just wants some attention, but I think he's going to fall asleep anyways. So let's get started. One topic a lot of you wanted to hear about was the money question. Where to find cheap, sustainable alternatives? Budget, student struggles. You may not expect this from me, since, if you know, I live in one of the most expensive countries in the world and also in a super expensive city, but I definitely have a budget for shopping and I am living quite frugal with everything I buy. So budget friendliness is super important to me. If you're asking me about cheap and sustainable options, you may want to rethink what you consider as sustainable, because the most sustainable way of acquiring is also the most budget friendly. This may seem too obvious, but it's not buying. If you think about it, acquiring really is the opposite of sustaining. I love the word sustaining because it just reminds me of this intentionality and this care for something you own and making sure it works or you can use it over the years, and if it's broken you fix it and you sustain the usage of that item. I hope I'm using the terms in the right way. The truth is, no fashion purchase is without its sins. So if you really care about the environment, your best bet is to simply stop consuming so much. Arwa Lodai via a Looks magazine. I think the best thing we all can do is change our mindset towards shopping, which can ultimately change our behavior. I also feel like shopping for a lot of people has become a habit. When, for example, you feel frustrated, there's the term retail therapy. So with this video, I just kind of want to bring some new ideas and questions to ask yourself to consider before you buy new things. First, ask yourself, why aren't you happy with the item you want to rebuy if you already own a type of this item? The second question to ask yourself is, have you had multiple instances where you thought this exact item would improve the quality of your life? I kind of see it as a practice, valuing what I already have in my life and making full use of it. I'm not saying I'm perfect at this at all. It has definitely been something I've been practicing throughout the past 4 years. Another fact to take into consideration, which I always think is so interesting, is why were you able to live without this item before you knew it existed? Have you had a situation where you were just living your life normally and then you learned about the existence of something through marketing, or you heard someone talk about it and suddenly you just felt the need to have it? That is basically one of the purposes of marketing, to create a need that didn't really exist. You can definitely call this manipulation, but honestly, so much of our world today has to do with marketing and trying to trick us and subconsciously wiring us to brands and thoughts and ideas so that we make purchases in the future. But I guess this video is also about, resisting those urges and resisting falling into those marketing traps. Once you are sure that you actually want to get something, consider these options before actually buying something new, because as I mentioned earlier, buying something new is the worst thing we can do in terms of sustainability. Kind of obvious, do you already have this item in our house? I think this is also just something that if we don't really think about it, we're just like, oh yeah, I need a new scissor. But maybe, you know, go and ask your mom if you have something in the basement. Or number 2 would be borrowing something. Just ask around. My favorite thing to do with clothes is borrow my clothes from my friends, from my sister, and just exchanging stuff. You also value the clothes more if you borrow a sweater to your best friend and then you can exchange them and you kind of have something that reminds you of them, and then you can get it back, and it kind of creates this new appreciation for something if you don't have it all the time. I also think the model of renting items like cars, or there are even services where you can rent clothes, is one of the models of our sustainable future. And then we all know it, thrift stores. I think secondhand shopping is one of my favorite concepts of our world today and can't be denied in terms of how our sustainable shopping behavior is going to look in the future. If you've never been in a thrift store, there really are so many treasures that you can find secondhand, so check that out before you consider buying something new. Here I wanted to make the connection between budget friendliness and secondhand shopping. If you don't go into curated vintage stores, honestly just become good at thrifting and any basic thrift store is going to serve you well. So usually used items go for way less than 50% off. I love the fact that we're giving an item a new home, and again, it is way cheaper than buying something new. Practice creativity and try to find a way to fulfill the function without buying something new. Once you shed your materialistic consumer mindset, you'll think about your belongings in a whole new way and find true appreciation for them and the resources of our one world. If you've explored all of these options and still feel like buying something new, here's how I would approach it. The first step I recommend doing is surrounding yourself with content that advocates for sustainable behavior. I kind of like to look at this as a preparation for our future shopping by knowing brands that are a part of this movement. You already know where you can go back to if you're actually looking for a piece. So for example, if you're looking for underwear from a sustainable brand, you already know where to go. I personally really enjoy looking for new brands and exploring, and also following content creators that talk about wanting to be more sustainable. I think helps me find new brands and be inspired to keep looking and being open. I have also received a lot of questions on defining a sustainable brand, so how to know if a brand is sustainable and what materials to look for. These are such important questions, and I recommend reading this article I've linked below, also from Arwa Lodi. As a start, I think she gives a great overview of the things to consider, since I don't feel like I'm the best source for this. You may be watching and wondering, Juice, why aren't you just saying how to shop more sustainably? And I think if you ask yourself that, you've kind of missed the point, because up to this point, I've basically said everything. First of all, don't shop. Second of all, try avoiding buying something new. And number 3 is doing research on sustainable brands. I realized throughout this whole video, I'm basically just trying to stop everyone from shopping. But here comes the actual part where I talk about it and share my approach. So once you find a brand whose values align with yours and have also find a specific product that you love, create a wish list. So save the link of the item, write a description. I just use my notes usually, or a Pages document, and close the document. Now you need to wait. And I know you're gonna be like, what the fuck, Choose, what is this supposed to be? But you're going to wait 30 days, okay? Let us just let that sink in. Let me tell you, this has saved me so much money and also has saved resources from being used. As a repetition of my strategy, the main concept is to wish list items you want to buy and stop purchasing items immediately. There really were so many instances where I was like, bro, I just want to buy this right now. I really need this item. And 30 days later, I was just like, thank you that I did not spend my money on that item because I don't desire it anymore. And I think after 30 days, you're definitely gonna know if you really want an item and have been thinking about it and can't wait to buy it. It is probably going to improve your life. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention, to make this experience a bit more fun, actually schedule in the day you are going to purchase the item, so just a month from the day you're putting it in your wish list. Shopping like this also requires patience, which I think is a good practice. It also requires you to think. And once you start thinking like this, I feel it's also going to translate into your mindset in general, and you're going to ask yourself more questions and think more long-term. And in the end, that is the most important thing that is going to change our consumer behavior to be more sustainable. I feel like my eye for knowing whether something is long-lasting and quality has really developed throughout the years. Also, a part of it is my Swiss side, because Swiss people really do look for quality, and so that also kind of goes into that. But I love the topic of curating quality belongings. So if you want to have a part 3 of this series, comment down below. I would love to do that. I definitely have a lot of experience with it. But for now, thank you so much for watching. Thank you from Bourbon, who is really falling asleep behind me. And I'll see you soon. Bye, thanks for watching.